couple of weeks or about a month ago. I want you to come to part 4 of consolidation accounting, which I gave, titled Complex Groups. Part 4 of complex groups. And I'm planning to discuss section number 3, which is in page number 9. Section number 3, which is in page number 9, where we deal with mixed groups. The mixed group structure, what we are looking at here is something like, for example, P has 70% holding in S. S has a certain percentage, say 30% in T, and P also has direct holding in T, something like about 60%. We are going to look at a situation of this kind, and after we discuss a few questions, I'll probably discuss with you about the complexities that can get involved in a group structure like this, and then how to deal with such complex situations. I would like to come to question number 6, which is also on the same page, 9. Question number 6 in page number 9. Summarize draft statements of financial position of 3 companies as at 31st December 2019 are as follows. Property, plant and equipment. Investments. They have shown investment in S by P 400, and investment in Q have been done both by P and S. Situation like this. And current assets. Then the share capital, retained earnings and current liabilities. Very simple balance sheet. You must understand one thing here. In your paper of advanced business reporting, consolidation accounting is expected, as I always say, as part of a case study question. And it's very hard to expect something like a very long P&L and balance sheets and with so much of adjustments. That is not the style of questioning when it comes to the final level, at strategic level paper. Instead, what they might probably do, along with the case study, they can introduce various situations where, like, all of a sudden they may say that they are acquiring another company, and that company by that time had acquired another company. And when you are given certain information, they might ask what is the goodwill on acquisition on this company, and what would be the non-controlling interest balance, and how this would be reflected in the consolidated balance sheet, and what do you think about the financial gearing of the group after this acquisition is being made? Are they better off? Something like that. So you have to work out something so that you have to obviously know principles. Then it's all about analysis. You have to analyze, you have to compare, you have to see how it was and how it is now, and what has been improved and what has gone down. This is what they are looking at. Therefore, I'm not too bothered to work out any long questions, which is of no relevance to your paper. That's why just to learn the principle. Now, all throughout up to section number 4, all consolidation related matters I dealt with you in a very simple format, just for you to understand the principle and the technique of consolidation. So this is another example for it. Let's now put down the group structure. On 1st January 2017, P acquired 80% of the shares of S. As of 1st January 2017. And 70% shares of Q on the same day. So if I were to get Q, say here, on the same day, P has acquired 70%. SS retained earnings at this date were 250,000. Retained earning of S, 250. And retained earnings of Q, 20,000. As of this date. On the same date, that is on 1st January 2017, S acquired 15% of the equity shares of Q. S acquired 15% of Q on the same date. So the retained earnings also the same. It is the group policy to measure non-controlling interest using the fair value method. The fair value of SS non-controlling interest at the date of acquisition is 70,000 and the fair value of Q's non-controlling interest based on P's effective holding was 50,000. So now let's find out the effective holding. In S and in Q. Parent. Parent has 80% in S, therefore non-controlling interest should be the balance 20%. That works out 100. With Q, parent, they directly have 70%, indirectly have 80% into 15%. 80% into 15% comes to 12%, 12 plus 70, 82%. So out of 100 you have 82% with the parent, therefore the effective holding that non-controlling interest has is 18%. So what they are talking about, the market value of this 20% or rather fair value of this 20% is 70 million and fair value of this 18%. That's why they say the effective holding based on the P's effective holding of 82%, the fair value of non-controlling interest, which is limited to 18%, is 50,000. Take that into account. And they are not talking about any fair value adjustment, anything, but the reserve position now you can find out. S company's retained earnings have gone up to 420. This 250 has gone up to 420. And Q company's reserves have gone up from 20 to 75. This has gone up to 75. So bear that in mind. Those are the post-acquisition reserve movements applicable to those companies. Now the principle is very clear. Both are subsidiaries. S is a direct subsidiary, but Q also you made a investment 70%. That's also direct subsidiary, but you are one of the subsidiaries have stake in the other subsidiary. That's the complexity that has got involved here. Okay, now let's work out goodwill on acquisition in relation to S. Cost of investment 400. Fair value of non-controlling interest 70. Fair value of net assets of S. Share capital 150 plus reserves they had at the time of acquisition 250. 400. Then your goodwill amount comes to 70. Now you may calculate goodwill on acquisition of Q. Now remember, when it comes to Q, both P and S have invested. So if you take cost of investment, look at this carefully. Cost of investment, how much P has made? 200. Plus out of the investment that S has made, look at how much of investment that S has made to buy shares in Q. To buy this 15%, they have paid 80. Out of that 80, you have to make a split. Whenever the S make an investment, or when S makes an investment, 80% of that investment only comes within the control of P. Balance 20% of that investment should go to the minorities of S. The minority shareholder of S. Or rather, if you take 80% owned by parent, balance 20% is owned by minorities. So of any assets and liabilities, or even including the investment that is made by S, 20% should be the minorities. Therefore, you must take only 80% of the investment value 80. 64. Then what is the fair value of non-controlling interest? That was given as 50,000, you remember that, in point number 3. Now deduct fair value of net assets of Q at the balance sheet date, which is plus at the time of acquisition they had 20. So deduct 70. This comes to, sorry, 264. Then the goodwill comes to 244. Now take non-controlling interest of S at acquisition. $70, then post acquisition how much increase? 250 has gone up to 420. 250 has gone up to 420. Post acquisition reserve movement is 170. Of that you have to give them 20%. 34. Then don't forget one more thing. I said out of the investment of 80, 80% I have taken for the goodwill calculation, and balance 20% should be deducted from the minority interest. Investment in Q, 20% of 80, 16. Then a non-controlling interest comes to 88. Non-controlling interest comes to 88. Then you can find out non-controlling interest in relation to Q. That is for the 18%. At the time of acquisition, they were given as 50. Post acquisition, increases from 20 to 75, increases 55. 55 into 18%, effective minority interest. That comes to 9.9. 59.9. The console reserves. P has got how much? $1,925. S post acquisition is 170. Take 80% of that. $136. Then come to Q. Increase is 55. Take 82% of it. $45.1. How much it comes to? $2,106.1. Now you may prepare console balance sheet. property, plant and equipment. Take the addition of 1,500 plus 450 plus 120. Goodwill on acquisition 70 plus 244. $314. Current assets 250 plus 125 plus 35, 410. On the other hand, share capital, take holding company share capital 300. Consolidated reserves 2,106.1. $2,406.1. Non-controlling interest 88 plus 59.9. $147.9. Current liabilities 125 plus 85 plus 30. 240. Take the grand totals on both sides. $2,794. $2,794. Let us look at question number 7. Summarized draft statements of financial position of 3 entities as of 31st December 2019 are as follows. The 3 companies: holdings, paper and salt. Property, plant and equipment, investments. Once again, holdings have done in paper and in salt as well. And paper also has made an investment in salt. Current assets, share capital, retained earnings and current liabilities. The balance sheet structure is pretty much the same as the question that we just looked at. On 1st January 2016, holdings acquired 70% of the equity shares of paper and 60% of the equity shares of salt. So let's draw the group structure with that. Holdings invested in paper, up to 70%. And 60% in salt. As of 1st January 2016. As of 1st January 2016. That time retained earnings with paper 100, with salt 50. On the same date, paper acquired 20% in salt. The group policy is to measure NCI, non-controlling interest, using the proportion of the fair value of the net asset method. So they are not going to go by the fair value, but they are going to go by the net asset value. Now once again we calculate the effective holding. In paper and in salt. Parent 70, so non-controlling interest should be 30. And salt, directly you have 60%, indirectly you have 70 to 20%, that is 14. 60% plus 14% comes to 74%. So minorities comes to our non-controlling interest 26%. Now let's work out on the goodwill. Goodwill on paper. Cost of the investment. $350. Non-controlling interest. Take the proportionate value of the net assets. How much? $300 plus 100. . Of that, 30%. 120. From that you deduct net assets of paper, 400. Goodwill 70. Then goodwill on the acquisition of salt. Investments, as we did earlier, you get 175 plus 70% of 50. Because paper has made an investment of 50, you must take 70% of that. $210. Non-controlling interest. How much the net asset is at that time? $300 plus, sorry, 100 plus retained earnings 50 of salt at the time of acquisition. Out of this, you have to apply non-controlling interest percentage, which is 26%. That comes to how much? 390. Sorry. 39, I suppose. 150, 39. The net assets of salt, which is again 100 plus 50, 150. We get 99 goodwill arising on the acquisition of salt. Then come to non-controlling interest of paper. Since it is share of the net assets, you can take the net assets at the end of the year or at the end of the financial year and apply the relevant percentage, which means 30% of the closing net assets. Closing net asset is how much? 300 plus 550 and take 30% of it. How much? 255. Non-current or other, sorry, non-controlling interest relating to salt. Once again, you apply 26% on the net asset value at end of the financial year. Net asset value at the end of the financial year is $250. 100 plus 150. into 26%. $65, so altogether comes to 320. Consolidated reserves, holdings, $1145. Paper, how much the post acquisition reserve movement? At the time of acquisition it was 100. Then Pepper's reserves have increased out up to 550. So this has gone up to 550. That means increase is 450. 450 of that 70%. That is the holding percentage parent has. 315. Then salt. It has gone up from 50 to 150. 50 to 150. Increase is 100. Of that you take 74%. The consolidated reserves comes to 1,534. Then let's put down the balance sheet. Property, plant and equipment. Add all three figures. It comes to 1,925. Goodwill on investment. 70 plus 99, 169. Current assets. Add all three figures. 745. The total comes to 2,839. Then share capital. Holding company share capital will come there 500. Consolidated reserve 1,534. Then 2,034. Non-controlling interest is 320. Along with that, current liabilities, just add all three figures. 250, 200 plus 50 comes to 500. Grand total comes to what has happened to 15? We have forgotten to deduct from non-controlling interest investment in salt belonging to minority shareholders, which means 30% of the investment value. 70% is owned by the parent, 30% is owned by the minorities, 30% of the investment value of 50. 30% of 50 is 15 should be deducted. Then the minority interest comes to 305 instead of 320. Then you get 2,839. We'll come to the last question, number 8. The summarized draft statements of financial position of the three entities at 30th June 2019 are as follows. This is question number 8, the last question. You are given property, plant and equipment for A, B and C. Investment in subsidiaries at cost. They have given 10,000 for A and 4,000 for B, but they have not broken it down as to how much of money invested on behalf of acquiring B or C by A. Current assets, inventory, receivables and cash, share capital, 1 rupee shares, retained earnings, and non-current liabilities and current liabilities. On 1st July 2018, now this accounting year end is 30th June 19. So that means on the first day of this current financial year, A acquired 2 shareholdings. The first was 60% equity shareholding of B for 6 million. So which means for B they have invested 6. The retained earnings of B were 5 million and the fair value of non-controlling interest holding was 3.5 million. The second was 10% of the equity share capital of C for 1 million. So out of 10 million, 6 million and 1 million were invested in B and C. The balance 3 million should have been done for some other investments. So let's put down the group structure now with this. A has invested in B 1st July 2018. %60. That time the retained earnings $500,000. And the fair value of non-controlling interest is given as 3.5. Second was 10% ownership in C. That has happened on the same day, which is again 1st July 2018. For that they have invested 1 million. On the same day, B acquired 60% of the share capital of C. B acquired 60% on the same day. For 4 million. So that 4 million you can see in the balance sheet of B as investment in subsidiary. The retained earnings of C at that time were 570,000. You can find out the effective holding that A has over C. 36% plus 10, 46%. The minorities are then comes to about 54%. They say the fair value of non-controlling interest holding was 2.5 million. Now we will just have idea about the effective holding. Effective holding over B and over C. Parent has over B they have 60%. So non-controlling interest is about 40%. Over C, directly they have 10, indirectly they have 36, altogether 46%. So non-controlling interest comes to 54% to complete 100%. At 1st July 2018, a property, plant and equipment in the books of B had a fair value of 250,000 in excess of its carrying value. And the item had a remaining useful life of 5 years at this time. Then you can work out the net assets. Of B at the time of acquisition and as at the balance sheet date. Share capital $7,000 and $7,000. Even at the balance sheet date is that. There were no share issues during the in between. Retained earnings. At the time of acquisition, they said 500. As at the balance sheet date, the retained earnings is 730. Then revaluation adjustment has an excess of 250. And that 250 should be there at the balance sheet date also. Then further depreciation. Further depreciation. Nothing as at the balance sheet date. For 1 year, you must take 1 out of 5. Because this had a remaining life of 5 years at that time. So 50 should be depreciated. At 30th June 2019, that is at the balance sheet date, B and C held goods in inventory which had been purchased from A for a total of 360,000. A had sold the goods at a 20% markup. Now this is a profit to be eliminated from A's profit so that it will not have any impact on non-controlling interest shareholders of either B or C. Therefore, we didn't want to even know how much of goods remain unsold with B and with C, because that split is not necessary to know, because all what you have to find out the total unrealized profit. Total unrealized profit, that has to be eliminated from consolidated profit. 360, which is a 20% markup. So 360 divided by 120, multiply by 20, the unrealized profit is coming to about 60. This is to be eliminated from consolidated profit and from consolidated inventory. At 30th June 2019, goodwill arising on the acquisition of B had been impaired by 250,000. We'll look at it later. But there was no impairment of goodwill arising on the acquisition of C. Group policy to measure NCI at fair value. Now what is the net asset position at the time of acquisition and as of now? 7,750, 7,930. So post-acquisition movement is 180. Increase is 180. Now let us calculate goodwill arising from acquisition. Goodwill in relation to acquiring B. Cost of investment they said they spent 6 million. Fair value of non-controlling interest was given as 3.5 million. The net assets of B at the time of acquisition, 7,750. Goodwill comes to about 1,750. Then goodwill on acquiring C. Investment. Direct how much? You invested directly 1 million, 1,000. Out of the investment made by B, which is 4,000, you must take only 60%. %60 of 4,000, which is altogether 3,400. Then fair value of non-controlling interest. Was given as 2.5 million. Then net assets of C, how much it comes to. At the time of acquisition, the share capital was 4,000 and reserves were 570. $4,570. $1,330. And they said out of the goodwill arising from acquiring B, 250 has to be written off as impaired. So this I take off impairment. Then the net figure is 1,500. So in the balance sheet, you have to add 1,500 together with 1,330. This goodwill has to be split amongst non-controlling interest shareholders and the parent shareholder, because the goodwill computation was done based on the fair value of non-controlling interest. Therefore, 40% of that goodwill write-off should be borne by the minorities and 60% only will be borne by the parent. Now let us calculate non-controlling interest. In relation to B. At the time of acquisition was given as 3,500. Post acquisition, net assets have gone up by 180. Of that, 40% should be given to non-controlling interest. 40% of 180, 72. Impairment of goodwill, you take 40% of 250, which is 100. And out of your investment, you are making investment in C. You made an investment of 4 million. Out of 4 million, 40%. Out of 4 million rupee investment that B has made, 60% has been taken up by the parent for goodwill computation. Here, 60% of 4,000. 40% of 4,000 you have to take now. This is 1,600. Deduct. $1,872. Then non-controlling interest with C. At the time of acquisition, it came to about $2,500. Post-acquisition, increase is how much? Only the reserve movement, no? 570 has gone up to 870. This has gone up to 870. So the reserve movement is 300. Of that you take minority interest 54%. $162. 2,662. So you have to add these two for minorities. And finally, you take console reserves. Console reserves. What is coming out of A? As it is 4,150. Coming out of B, increase is 180. Of that, 60%. $108. What is coming out of C? Of 300, you take 46%. $138. Then some adjustments that have to be made. Unrealized profit 60. And goodwill impairment, you have to take up 150. Goodwill impairment 150. That comes to how much? $4,186. Now finally we'll prepare the console balance sheet now. Consolidated balance sheet. Property, plant and equipment 9,300 plus 3,600 plus 4,250 plus 250 minus 50. How much? $17,350. Then you have investments. Parent company has made an investment of 10,000, but of which you have taken only 6,000 and 1,000 for investing in B and C. Then the balance 3,000 should come as, that must have been the normal investment. That should appear in the balance sheet, 3,000. This is actually 10,000 minus 6,000 minus 1,000. Goodwill on acquisition. Now come to how much? 2,830. Current assets, debtors, sorry, stocks, inventory. One 750 plus 700 plus 400 minus unrealized profit, which came to about 60. 2,790. Debtors, you just add all three lines. 2,020. All three lines are added simply. Cash, all three lines are added. You get 2,560, 2,890. All that will come to the total of 7,700. So the grand total comes to about 23,180. Okay, let's take share capital. 15,000. Console reserves 4,186. Non-controlling interest 4,534. That is 1,872 plus 2,662. Non-current liabilities 3,000, non-current liabilities 3,000, that is adding all three. 2,000 plus 750 plus 250. Finally, current liabilities, as we add everything, it comes to 4,160. As you add all that, the total comes to how much? suppose this total grand total come to how much? Here you get 30,880. $30,880. Now you have basically learnt consolidation principles relating to preparation of consolidated profit or loss account and consolidated balance sheet with the involvement of one or more subsidiaries, and or where you have one subsidiary and one associate company, or one subsidiary company and a JV company, or two or one JV company and associate, or any mix of structure to handle consolidation accounting. And also you have learned changes in the group structure where further acquisitions and disposals of shares are considered. In the previous chapters in the classroom we studied that. It can lead into a situation where if you make a further acquisition, you can go into a situation from non-control to control, or you can extend your control from control to control situation. Similarly, when you step down, when you sell shares, it can lead into a situation where you had control but you eventually fall into non-control situation. Then as you fall into uncontrolled situation, you have to see whether you have any remaining investment and as to how it should be treated for. Then last situation was that we considered was falling from control to control. There you are not losing control. So acquisition can go from non-control to control or control to control. Disposals can go from control to non-control or control to control. Those four situations were dealt. Now in this particular chapter, we looked at complex structures where, like, when there is an involvement of subsidiary acquiring subsidiary acquiring an associate. And also, today we looked at where parent company makes investment in the first subsidiary and also they make another investment in the third company. It can be another subsidiary of your first subsidiary. And not only this, for understanding purpose, as I told you at the beginning, just to avoid unnecessary technicality, I simply assumed the dates of acquisition being the same and a simple complex structure in a simple format. But surely, as we get on to the revision, I will look into more different situations, like I would say here you have, this is on one day, this is happening on another day. Or this can be 40%, this can be also 40%. So you have 24 and 40, 64. Something like that. Or this you have only 20%. But the dates can be changed. This can go later, this can come before. So all situations we can handle without any problem because you have learned the underpinning and underlying principles relating to the preparation of consolidated financial statements where the group structure is somewhat complex. With that note, I hope to see you very soon on another video of consolidation, for which probably I might send you the material in a e-form. The institution will take care of that part. I will forward that to them in due course. And once it is reached to your table or to your computer, just take a printout of it And I think I strongly recommend you to take a printout of the PDF document that is coming to your place. Because when you handle questions, you can't be weaving the question on and off and then listen to the lecture. It's good to have a hard copy of what we are sending and take the printout and keep it, and keep your exercise book also and jot down the answers as if like you are working out it in the class. So this is what the virtual program is all about finally. I hope to see you very soon in the next video. Thank you so much. Have a good day.